Hein, what do you make of Mediclinic at current valuation? Do you like the healthcare arena in this environment? It is relatively defensive.
I think one should have healthcare in your portfolio, especially with the state of state hospitals being what it is. I think it chases people towards private hospitals like Mediclinic, and I believe that is just one of those arenas that you have to cover in your portfolio in South Africa.
ABSA out with a third quarter trading update today. Not much detail out there other than in rand terms profit was relatively flat, and I think a similar picture from a revenue perspective. We are seeing they make the statement that bad debts are reducing, but operating costs are now counteracting that positivity and going up. Are you cautious overall on your outlook for the banking sector and specifically with ABSA?
Well, in general, I'm cautious on the banks, and I think that the two bigger banks, ABSA and Standard Bank, are actually taking maybe a little bit more strain, most probably because of costs in the bigger banks. Yes, the debts are the big thing that actually was the biggest strain in the past 6 months on the banks, or in the past year. But it's good news that the debts are coming down. I am not so sure that it is permanently over. I think we see just too many people getting actually a whiplash now, sort of and I think that is where the whole double dip story came from.
Just on that Standard Bank point, now we know that they are at the moment going through a heavy cost-cutting exercise, laying off some 2,000 people, taking out 700 million to 1 billion in costs in an attempt to boost their return on equity. Do you think that this means that Standard Bank, their visibility has actually fallen off a cliff? One could argue that they're late to come to this cost-cutting cycle, and it must mean that there's something untoward in the pipeline. Is that a little dramatic, do you think?
Yeah, this market is a dramatic market since 2 years ago, and this market probably asked for dramatic action. Yes, I think they did. But
isn't sentiment, perhaps Hein, the way to rephrase that is that sentiment is moving to the fact that we're now moving out of the economic downturn. Do you not think that this is a strange time for Standard Bank to be cutting so heavily?
You know, I think there's a psychology of we are moving out of the recession, and maybe it's now easier for people who lose their jobs to be able to find something else. But it is not really, and that is why I'm talking about a whiplash, which this whiplash amongst the population, amongst the working people, is probably one of the reasons why we have been talking about a possible double dip, which we maybe do not get really on the revenue side with companies. But with a man in the street, it's really going tough out there. It is as if the reality of the recession is only starting to hit a lot of people in South Africa at this stage.
One of the issues, sorry to harp on Standard Bank, is that they are cutting dramatically in terms of their African strategy. Departments that are new, that are up and running, are now being closed down. Again, isn't this the premium that Standard Bank has always commanded, is because of its diversification, because of its Africa growth strategy? Do you think that the reaction of the share price to the retrenchments, which has been relatively insignificant, is perhaps the right reaction? Do you not think that the share price is going to come under more pressure?
It might come under more pressure, but I think it is overdone. And I think it's actually very attractive at this price.
At 105, you like it?
I definitely like it at this level. Obviously, I like it at the lower level as well.
ABSA, we've spoken about PPC. Let's talk about PPC. South Africa's largest cement producer reported a 28% increase in full-year profit, helped by the non-recurrence of one-time charges. The company says it's pursuing expansion opportunities in other emerging markets. Here's CEO Paul Staver.
Demand. And although we've taken a lot of cost out of the business, it becomes more and more difficult as volumes go down to replace lost volume with improved efficiency, and you see some of that coming through in the numbers today.
He also points out that rural demand, strangely enough, has been resilient. Any idea why?
we have some ideas. I don't have the statistics to back this up, but we've seen a lot of social grants in South Africa moving basically cash into the rural areas, and we believe that some of that cash is finding its way, a percentage of it, into cement purchases. So we believe that a lot of the rural grants that we see have made the rural community has made more cash available in the rural community, and that's somehow finding its way into cement consumption and cement demand in the rural communities.
Prospects for the current year, because it looks like they are pretty uncertain at this stage.
It does, and I must confess to hedging our bets a little bit. As I said earlier, we have tried to anticipate the market a few times, but we've been proved wrong every time over the last few months. So what we're saying at the moment, that we simply don't know. It could go up, it could go down, it could go sideways. It's simply, in the short term, very difficult to call. And the wisest thing to say under the circumstances is that we're just uncertain about the short term.
Well, we're not a bad set of results, but you've got to take into account the once-off item that has skewed this set to the positive. The broader question with PPC is, when are we going to see the stock performing? It has tracked sideways for as long as I've been sitting on this news desk, and I think we launched CNBC Africa about 3.5 years ago.
Right.
And if you look at how it underperforms constantly, the JSE All Share up 13% year to date, PPC is sideways.
Look, it's a 100-year-old company, 118 years I think they're old. It's over 100 years on the JSE. It is an old company. They've been through their ups and their downs. It is difficult times at this stage for cement producers. But over and above that, they're getting more and more competition in South Africa. So it's not easy times. I'm very glad for them that these once-off charges brought probably a little bit of a smile to their faces, but I'm sure it doesn't take the eye off the ball. And I see that they're talking about maybe going it alone with cement plants in Africa. And it's good to hear that a company like that, who is under the pressure that they've been for the past few years now, are looking at expansion to fight back.
Well, the competitive environment is changing fast and furiously, and we've got this new entrant which has the Chinese relations. That could be very disruptive to the market. Do you think it's a threat to PPC and current share valuation?
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether the Chinese entrant will be able to produce much cheaper than the South African producers, the old hands in South Africa that knows the South African market, whether they'll be able to produce as cheaply in South Africa as they are able to produce in China, for instance. And I must say I doubt that to an extent, but the problem is that is another entrant in the market, which is probably an oversupplied market to an extent. And then especially at this time where demand is not big. And then we have also the Nigerian player here that is also disrupting the market, and Lafarge, the French. You know.
Do you own PPC?
I don't. No.
Would you consider buying PPC, or is there too much uncertainty in the environment?
Yes, I think the demand is definitely a problem for me at this stage.